Hello. I made or tried to make a video before that was all about gender incongruence, bodily dysphoria. And the reason why I say bodily is it's not just about social expectations about gender and feeling out of sync or out of line with those in contradiction around gender, it's also about embodiment. So the question of gender dysphoria connects to bodily dysphoria, but it is not the same. Now, the most intense forms of gender dysphoria fall back into this question of bodily dysphoria when it feels like there are things that do not belong to you bodily wise, and where your body sort of always seems to betray you. But also it's about your relation to your body, right? It's not just about how other people perceive you. And this is what I would use as a term, the sense making, the mental sense making of your body, how you expect it to be. And then when you step into the social dynamics, how then you're read. So this is reading from the body, from the subject. That is how I understand my own transsexuality and the whole point of medical transition. So I don't really necessarily use the terminology gender or even understand it with a gender binary kind of framework. I think more about the sense of embodiment, right? And that transition is about re-embodiment, physical and social. It's not for everyone, but that's just how I see it. Otherwise, why would we be pursuing things like SRS or, for some people, FFS? The battle is not just about social recognition. The battle is also congruence between body and mind. So my mind tells me, right, that this is what my body should be like. It projects a mental map. It expects it to have these particular kinds of features, which through male puberty it never attained. And that's the most disturbing thing about going through that puberty, because you really are bodily out of sync. It's a very personal thing, so I don't need to go into too many details, but I would go back to that question of body, out of sync, physical embodiment, and also how that feeds into social embodiment through gendering. And it's very interesting because there are trans-exclusionary feminists and so-called gender criticals who presuppose that there's nothing material about our embodiments, that what lends weight to the sex class oppression is the basis in materiality of women's existence. And while I can definitely see where that argument can go, it still doesn't erase the fact that people who transition are undergoing a material change. You can hold that there's a biological substratum to sex, right? I would make an argument that that's problematic and it's not the greatest basis for forming feminist politics. You can call that chromosomes, or you can call that, morphology. Now, obviously, when it comes to morphology, physicality, we seek to intervene in that through our transitions, and that helps with gender dysphoria. Some people are happy with just hormonal changes and secondary sex characteristic changes. Others, such as myself, would like to have a complete realignment, because it's the source of our gender dysphoria is very much about that sense of being out of sync. Some people call that being in the wrong body, right? it's the wrong sexed body. It's not about, all the other biological functions and not being human. It's about how we are sexed. So, sex reassignment surgery is a way to adjust that, right? It doesn't give you a uterus, right? So, this is this kind of sex substratum materiality of womanhood that such turfs seek to underline as making us not possible as women, impossible women. But as many others have said, if that's the precondition for womanhood, you're actually imprisoning women in a logic as being reproductive vehicles only. Now, are women subject to those logics through patriarchy? Absolutely, hell yeah. But there's a chain of patriarchal inscriptions on women's bodies, not just their reproductive capacity, although that is a baseline, and I agree with that. There's also the way in which gender gets enmeshed with the idea of naturalness. And we need to, like the biological nature of women, we need to really move that, shift the dial, so to speak. And we can't get trapped in that. My embodiment has always been something liminal, not quite, never getting there, never being a man, but also feeling much more inhabitable or aligned with a female sexed embodiment. And God, it's such a long path. It's really arduous, and I've survived this far with the contradiction. But now the path is clearer, my thinking is clearer, and I know what I need to do. I know that this thing that plagues you, which is the mental image of what your embodiment should be, and transition and surgeries as a way to medical transition and surgeries as a way to achieve that, it's a lot clearer now to me. Sorry if it sounds like I'm just rambling. I'm not meaning to. I possibly need another coffee. But I will only feel like I'm properly bodied when I have fulfilled all of those kinds of objectives. And I don't really need recognition except in the legal sense. And I have absolutely no desire to take anyone else's spaces or dictate to them their beliefs around sex and gender. I just want to be me. I want to survive, have a survivable life, and actual jouissance in being me. That is, that I belong to this body. So that's what I think people misapprehend because they think it's ideological. It's actually a deeply sensed sense. And it's not about feelings, it's phenomenological. So you can look at the work of several theorists on this. Gayle Salamon is actually a good source. I'll put a link below. And there are others.